right, I have 14:30. I'll call the prison board meeting of December 21st to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is being recorded, so anything said in the meeting is part of the public record. We have a special presentation today on the agenda. Deacon Light, your annual report. Who wants to kick it off?
I'll go over our stats. So I have the stats from January to November, because obviously this month isn't completed yet. I'm happy to report we had 74 psych evals completed on inmates this year, 256 med checks completed. We also had 81 new intakes, that was 81 people who were not previously open with Deacon Light from the jail referred to as opened. And then 125 therapy sessions. A couple things I wanted to highlight though. In April, we updated our policy with the prison on what we were going to provide in the jail. And we increased our med checks and our psych evals to weekly. So we used to only go every 6 weeks. We bumped that up to weekly. Probably about June, we increased again the number of PEs or psych evals that we were doing. Just to make sure that we're staying in compliance with the 30-day mark from referral. So you'll see from that point on, the psych evals kind of wax and wane, and that's based on the need, so the number of referrals that we've had. In September, we increased our therapy time to provide a full half day of therapy, and also we increased the number of referrals that we were doing the intakes for the new consumers. And then again in October, we increased therapy time again by providing a second day of therapy. So we are now up to a day and a half of therapy a week in jail. In November, we included starting common ground appointments through our decision support center with the folks who are getting med checks. So for people who aren't familiar with that, it's basically they can fill out a health report. They use their kind of own words. They can discuss with the staff person that's doing the common ground what their concerns are, what their power statement is, what goals they want to work on in their treatment, and it really helps with the buy-in into the mental health treatment, kind of helps prepare for that appointment with the prescriber. Make sure they're reviewing like symptoms and side effects so that maybe it's reminding them of things they want to talk about. It hopefully will help decrease the number of triage well, I guess emails, not calls, but that we get from the prison staff saying, oh, you know, Johnny was just seen for his med check, but now he's saying that this and this and this are happening. So it really gives them the forum to like ask the questions and provide the feedback and kind of prepare for those appointments a little better. And then in January, since we continue to have a pretty big wait list for therapy, we're going to open up having people seen every other week instead of seeing weekly for therapy, so we can service more people with therapy in there. So we'll have the ability to basically see twice the number of people at the same amount of time that we have.
With there being a delay, or is that due to like the number of therapists you have to see? Is it like access to folks in the jail? Is it?
It's probably a mix. So the amount of time that we have at the jail, and then the number of therapists we have at the clinic. So we probably could add additional time in, but right now I don't know if we have the therapy resources to dedicate more time. We have an open position that's posted that we need to get filled.
So I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is
yeah.
like hypothetically, I would assume that if you had more therapists, you could provide as much service to the jail, and certainly they need it. You know, I guess that's what I was kind of asking.
Yeah. And those that we can't serve for therapy, we refer to Carrie Swanson, and then she does also see folks for therapy in the jail. So I think between Deacon Light and with Carrie Swanson, we're able to at least have people seen.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, considering where we were at a few years ago, I think that the changes over there have been fantastic, and everybody's very happy about that.
Yeah. And the increased med check appointments, I would just note too, They went from folks being seen probably every like 12 weeks to now we're able to see them every 4 to 6 weeks, typically closer to 4. So that has worked out really nice. I think it hopefully can engage people a little bit better and help with maybe that kind of warm handoff, so to speak, with them being established with our prescribers here, that they can then come to the clinic afterwards and see the same person. And
that's a perfect segue. I don't want to interrupt, but talking about the med checks going on, can you explain for someone like me that knows nothing about what a med check is?
Yeah, so our med checks typically are with the physician assistant. So when a person comes into treatment, they have an initial psych eval with the doctor, who's kind of like the head of the team. And then when they meet with the physician assistant who works closely with the doctor, they review like how are you doing overall with your mental health. Sometimes they'll administer like rating scales with people to kind of talk about progress. They'll talk about the medications they're on. They'll review what like the common side effects are. They'll talk to them about like, are they working? Do you think they're not? Like if you're taking something for sleep, how is your sleep? Are you sleeping better or worse?
You do that with the doc?
They do, the PA does it. And
Well, PA, yeah.
Yeah,
You do that with them?
Yes.
Okay. And then the therapy, not to interrupt, just the therapy sessions, are those simultaneous with med checks or are those completely separate?
Separate.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's more like your traditional like therapy. We could do like cognitive behavioral therapy. We have one therapist that goes that's trained in EMDR. They can do trauma therapy if they feel like they're in a place that they're ready to work on trauma. Sometimes people will in the jail and sometimes people will not. Obviously, you know, where you're at in life plays a big part on whether you're ready to work on your trauma or not, but they can work on skill building. With the DSC, there's also different like learning tracks and worksheets and things that people can do too that could focus on skill building. Like, what's the point of me taking my medication? What are the goals that people want to work on? There's a lot of like additional resources that we can offer to people through those.
And one last question that I think is obvious. I assume you work with probation when the inmate is then released.
Yep, we try very hard to follow up with probation. We do get the probation roster sent to us, which is nice. We have a monthly meeting that we do with juvenile probation, adult probation, that we can talk about cases. So we try and stay in pretty close contact.
Outside of the scope of this meeting, I was curious.
Have you spoken to Betsy Miller about the grant funding that she's gotten? They're going to be hiring a forensic case manager for drug and alcohol, and a huge chunk of it is a transition from the jail to community and vice versa. That might be something to definitely, and we can mention it and we can talk to her about it too, to get into. I'm sure that they're gonna have some discussion with everybody at the jail and that, but I just want to make you aware of that.
Yeah, we were actually just brainstorming around some of that this week internally, because one of the things that we've noticed is for the individuals that we open at the jail, we only have about a 32% follow-up rate for them when they're discharged or released from the jail. So we're trying to figure out what can we do differently to kind of keep people more engaged. We've talked about and thrown around some ideas that we haven't shared yet about like different groups, you know, kind of like understanding, follow-up, recidivism groups, things like that. Even if it's a one-time event for new admissions, just making sure they have the information online so before it can continue once they're released.
Betsy's going to have this position for 2 years, I believe at least, and it's kind of a pilot program, and I think it's a really huge step for them, in my opinion. Like,
it would be really nice to have somebody that could go into the community and kind of track down or follow up with people when they are no showing for the clinic. I think on our scope, sometimes it's limited what we can do with the outreach, but with case management, they can go to people's homes and knock on their doors and kind of do a little bit more of that intensive outreach. That might be really helpful.
Well, and to help facilitate what you're doing, what you're talking about doing in these other areas, you know, they'd be a county employee, they'd be tied into all of these systems here, have a direct line, and it'd be really great to use that position to coordinate the stuff that you're doing.
I think the other thing that's kind of piggyback what you're saying is we can do triages, and I've done quite a few of that with people that will send me a message or ask to talk to me and say I'm having some issues with my medication, and so I'll send it to the Beacon Light nurses and I copy it, Dr. John or Eric, And then they get right back to me and we either get them in right away or they make some changes right then that addresses those immediate needs. So that's a kind of an immediate crisis type of thing, but the triage, I've used that I've used it today actually twice. It's a wonderful thing because I can get those needs addressed without waiting for that med check in the next week or so. So that works really well too with Beacon.
Cool. And then just to get to your question about the differences between the two, so the other thing that's important to note is just because you're receiving med checks or med management doesn't mean you have to have therapy and vice versa. So not everybody is dual enrolled.
And the med checks are really, really important in my opinion, and I'm glad that that's an aspect of what you're doing, because I know for years it's been the bulk of the complaints that we get are medication related, how nobody listened and there wasn't this, so that's a really huge.
Well, and the other cool thing these guys do is every week, every Monday, they meet and go over the jail roster. So if there are pressing issues, as Carrie said, they can triage them up and get them seen with a prescriber potentially sooner than their scheduled appointment.
That's great.
The place we're at today compared to last year this time, and years ago, I mean, it's a different world over there. Working with Jen and Carrie, in addition to Carrie, it's just been fantastic. Everything that we're obligated to provide to the inmates per DOC is being far exceeded. Carrie's got a group, an art therapy group, that, I mean, she brings it to me and I'm like, yeah, I didn't know about that. But I'm telling you, it really helps these guys, and I've noticed our disciplinary hearings, everything has dropped dramatically because of the different groups and everything. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm actually signing up.
Are you?
Therapy now.
It's a sipping pain, isn't it?
Something like that.
You can pay the $5 after the meeting. Just kidding. Thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate being able to do it.
Any other questions for Carrie or Jen? All right, thank you so much for coming.
Have a good Christmas.
Now, we also had to have a medical update, correct?
Yes, I got a date.
Okay.
Lonnie did supply a medical report. The nurse was going to come over here, answer any questions anybody had. Unfortunately, medical issues with her husband, she had to. So the report's here, everything's here. If there's something I can answer, if you have a question about something, I'll do my best.
Is that the medical stats page in black?
The medical stuff, it's basically to check a box that says, because the code says that we have to have an annual
Report, correct.
All right, so this is what this is. EO visit 17 to 20. We don't have an exact number on that.
Well, I think once Lonnie sees this
Three of
report,
them didn't make it.
when Lonnie sees this report, he's going to be asking the same questions. We've got to be more specific on that. But this is a report that our medical department provided us. If there's changes, which there are, I'll let you know either way.
So is this in a packet you guys have at the table?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think everything in that package is public information, so your eyes on, like, need executive session notes and such.
On a motion?
I don't think we need an executive session until the end, correct?
No, for the representatives. We have to approve these.
Oh,
Even though they're,
I believe we do.
if it's annual.
Right.
I would motion to approve the medical status report.
I would, I've got the reg right here, and I don't think the reg requires approval. I think it just says,
I would go
it just says it has to be provided. Yeah.
Okay.
So for me to review.
Well, any questions for John pertaining to the medical stats? Hearing none, consider that satisfied. All right, executive session is next on the agenda, but
On the medical stats, do we have to have, is it more who provided it?
Maybe we can talk in executive session.
okay.
Got it.
But there won't be action after the executive session, so I'm just going to move it to the end,
Right.
so that we don't have to kick everybody out and bring it
Yep.
back. All right, so next on the agenda, the October 19th meeting minutes, as well as the executive sessions had around them.
Approve, or motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion seconded, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Finance report.
Approved finance report. I'll second.
Did we actually include that in the package?
I did not get anything to put in there.
I know it's over.
Lisa, going forward,
We have the stats report.
can you be sure to send the year-to-date actuals out to the prison board?
I thought I was just reporting.
That we could actually act on
Well,
it.
if you'd like to report, you can.
Well, I did go through it, and our biggest delta, of course, is medical costs. We budgeted $288,000, we're at $329,000 as of the 17th of December. Overall, I think the budget is going to be flat, but budget to actuals, what we budgeted, we're going to be about that. And then,
So the
But we do
medical
have-
costs, I thought we had intended that to go down about that much. So what happened?
Well, we intended the trips to the hospital to decrease, but the overall utilization is up. And I have to wonder, I think we should take a look at those numbers, because how much of them are COVID related, you know what I mean?
Well, therefore possibly are reimbursable too.
I mean, I may be wrong about that, but I mean,
Lisa, does that include the contract with here?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not just medical expense, medical service, it's
What
the
do
contract.
we, yeah, and it's Heater and Horner, right? They're,
Heater LLC is
is that, do we have a monthly rate or is it per?
monthly.
Okay.
It's a set rate, an annual
It's an annual
salary.
Okay.
He gets paid monthly.
Okay.
All right, sorry, I didn't interrupt. That just sounded.
I will, I'll submit it in the packet in the future.
Anything else of note? Okay.
That is a finance report.
Motion to approve that financial.
second.
Still the same, so all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. No old business, Warden's report.
I sent everybody my stats, council report, 302 transport report that Gary provided. And I also have our tentative start date to reopen the jail will be January 3rd. We're going to do all work release, work programs, self-help groups, NA, AA, visiting will be opened up. So we're operations normal as of January 3rd.
Wow.
So you put a lot of effort into the community service report this month.
Zero. We didn't have that. We're gonna get that.
Good work.
One day.
Anything else to know, any questions for the warden? Hearing none, we do approve the warden's report, right?
We do.
Make a motion to approve the warden's report.
Made by Eggleston, seconded by
Tricia.
Thurman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, the much coveted chairmanship of the Warren County Prison Board. Are there any nominations? I'll open up nominations for chair at this time.
Make a motion that Ben Carpenter be the chair again.
There's a nomination for myself. Are there any other nominations? This is a pretty fun gig, guys. All right, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to close nominations.
Make a motion to close.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay.
Whichever Pam wants.
That's right. Pam's.
All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
There's only one nomination, so formality, actually I guess we could skip it since there's just one. Thank you for the, again, much coveted position. Now, I'll open nominations for, yeah.
We would want to take that away from you.
If I could just revisit that real quick, everything passed on that. One thing I was going to say, because I've heard Ben who wants to be the chair again, but I appreciate that you want him to, so that's fantastic, so you do a really good job. That being said, when I first started here, it was the sheriff was a lot now. The sheriff was also at one time, so there's, but the sheriff, I thought it was nice having Clay Kim as the sheriff because he's so close to the jail.
Right.
Just for future thought, when Ben gets tired of nominating the sheriff, so.
Yeah, I think there was a conflict at one point because he was over both. You can't really be the chair of yourself.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think particularly after he was not the warden anymore, that worked well because he was, but probably one of the bigger points about this job is really just running the meeting and knowing Robert's rules, so.
If there's anyone as squared away as you, it's Steve, so.
Yeah, you attended my class, remember? So, I'll open up at this time nominations for vice chair, and it sounds like Z is on the block.
Nominate vice chairman, or sheriff seat.
One second, or whatever.
Motion to close nominations.
Close aye. Make a
Made
motion.
by
I'll
Irvin,
second.
seconded by Eggleston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. There was one nomination. Congratulations, Sheriff.
Congratulations.
Made my day.
There you go.
Brings you some business
Did I
cards.
say that segue on purpose, or?
Are there any announcements? Then I'll announce the next meetings. Are there any objections to February 15th, April 19th, June 21st, August 16th, October 18th, December 20th?
At
None of them are
this
holidays.
time, it's so kind of hard to see now.
Make a motion to approve the schedule as presented for next year.
Made by Eggleston, seconded by
I'll second it.
Irvin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the schedule as